hello, Courier Nation. Welcome to the Deliver on Your Business podcast, where you are the boss. Each week, we talk about how to make the most of your business as an independent contractor, as a courier delivering for gig economy apps like Grubhub, DoorDash, Postmates, Uber Eats, and so many others. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back one more week for the Deliver on Your Business podcast. I'm glad to have you back once again. I'm excited about this week's episode. Got a nice interview here that I really enjoyed doing. Last week I started something a little different, just kind of touching on some things at the beginning of the episode that relate to what's going on in the delivery world. And so a couple things today that relate to what we talked about last week. As I mentioned last week, there's a couple of programs out there for assistance that delivery drivers can take advantage of based on this whole pandemic assistance and everything. The first one, I would just say that ship has probably sailed here. The Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP, deadline is today, June 30th, but so far all of the places that I've seen have already stopped taking applications because they want to make sure that they've got enough time to get the applications processed by the end of the day. So that one may no longer be available. Maybe your local bank might have it. You want to check like real quick because probably by the time this goes live, we're almost at the end of the day. So the other one is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, or the EIDL. And that does include like a $1,000 grant if you complete the application right. I've got a post up on the website. I'll put a link in the show notes where you can get information on how to fill that application out. It's not a real difficult application. It's a little tricky because there's a couple places where it's asking for your business name, and a lot of people are tempted to put in the name like Grubhub or DoorDash. Don't do that. Just put your name down. Anyway, you can see a little more detail in that article. So if you are looking at applying on that one, you can go check out that article. The other thing that I mentioned last week, I said, go listen to Mike Delivers. Well, that's kind of why I'm excited about today's episode, because Mike Bisceglia from Mike Delivers has joined us this week to talk a little bit about that. So at this point, I'm just going to turn it over to the interview that we had here. Well, Courier Nation, I mentioned last week that I'm coming up on my 1-year anniversary, and July 1st, we launched the Deliver on Your Business podcast. I said, what should we do for a celebration? And I'm kind of looking forward to this because I think just having the guest we've got on today is a good way to celebrate. Now, a while back, I had Brian, who's on the UDM YouTube channel, on as a guest. And one thing I always enjoyed about Brian was he's always got this tagline that he starts at the beginning of his episodes about, if you love what you do, or if you do what you love and love what you do. And I've always liked that. That's always been just fun. And I think, because my podcast is so much about business and everything like that, that's sometimes easy to forget. But I think it's one of the most important business approaches you can have is just do something you enjoy doing. And now, as an outsider, I think it'd be real easy for me to look at delivery and say, yeah, there's no way you can love doing that. It just doesn't always look like the most attractive kind of thing. And I don't know how much, I love the heck out of it, but I don't know how much of it is that it's that enjoyable, and how much of it is that you just make a choice to enjoy what you're doing. And kind of going into this, there's a few guys on Twitter that I like to follow, and sometimes we'll get into discussions about things. And one of them, one day, Ricky, who he goes by Food Delivery Champ, he posted something on there. Hey, I'm about to listen to Mike Delivers podcast. And I was like, wait, what? There's another food delivery podcast out there? I must crush them. Because here's, the thing about, I love about doing deliveries podcasts. And I took some time off there for a little while during the pandemic, and I was going nuts during that time because it just wasn't as natural to kick on a podcast as it is when I'm out driving around. And you can play them at home, but it's not the same thing. But when I got started, before I started, I had searched all over actually trying to find any podcasts about delivery, even episodes about delivery or something, because I'm pulling up all sorts of stuff about how to do websites and different things like that. There's a couple of gig economy ones out there, and every once in a while, like the rideshare guy, I'll talk about delivery. But I don't know. I just realized, hey, there's no competition out there to start a podcast in this area. And folks, the best way to be the number one podcast in your field is to be the only one in your field. So here I am. And then I get this revelation that there's another delivery podcast out there, and it's kind of troublesome. And the part that made it worse was I liked it. Probably even liked it better than my own. So, how can you hate a guy that you enjoy listening to? But I took some comfort in the fact that, hey, we're doing some different things here. Mine is focusing on business and the business of delivery. And Mike, with Mike Delivers, he kind of really gets into a lot of the entertaining aspects and everything. He's a great storyteller. He gets into the food itself. So I don't feel like he's competition at all. Or maybe I tell myself that, because if he was, then I'd have my butt handed to me pretty quickly. Because I don't know, if it's entertainment versus business, I think entertainment's probably going to win every time. But anyway, that's a long intro, folks. But here's where I'm going. It goes back to what I said to begin with about love what you do and do what you love. And that's, I think, what I really enjoy about Mike's podcast is you just really get into just the enjoyment of the experience. At least that's what I take away from it. And, I think the reason I've been able to stay at doing this delivery thing for a couple of years, and probably even what got me into doing a website and stuff like that, is I just enjoy it. And, do you hear the dogs barking a whole lot in the background there? I don't know if it's coming through much.
I do not hear the dogs barking in the background. I actually have my cat in the background, so he's not making any noise. He is completely passed out, so he's not going to say anything. That I promise.
That's always easier that way, huh? So, okay, I think we're probably okay to keep going then. And that's one of the challenges of doing a podcast, I guess. But, the thing about delivery is, I don't know, is it whether it's fun by nature or it's fun because you focus on the fun part of it, and maybe a bit of both. But I think that's why I really have enjoyed Mike's podcast since finding it. I think he captures a lot of the humor. He captures the entertainment and just, I don't know, some of the fun stuff. So it is really an honor to have Mike Bisceglia from the Mike Delivers podcast on today. Mike, welcome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the kind words, and thanks for having me on the podcast. I love what you said in your introduction, and yeah, I love doing this. I love the stories that come from this, and I find it really weirdly therapeutic being on the road. So the stories that I just take a couple notes when I'm on the road, and I've had a blast doing some delivery the last year.
Yeah, it has been. Yeah, there's times it can wear on you a little bit, but I think sometimes it's if you let it wear on you. And a long time ago, I decided to quit stressing about things like tips and stuff like that, because it wasn't worth what it did to my day. Yeah, in his, I think the intro in your last episode, Andrew Bogish, he put that line in there. He says about makes total sense that you're delivering food, but it makes less sense that you're doing a podcast about it. That was fun. I enjoy your intros that you have people do for you, but I don't know. It seems like a natural fit to me. But tell me about how you got into how'd you get into delivery, and what got you started with doing the podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. So about a year ago now, so I would say probably about 14 months ago now, I was producing the morning show for CBS Sports Radio, and I would be done around 11 o'clock every day, 11 a.m. So I get back in the car, go home from New York City to New Jersey, 11:30 to noon every day, I'm home. And granted, I'm getting up at 3 in the morning, so it's early, but I had the full day free. And my wife was like, you need something to do. You're bored. And I'm one of these people, like, I needed something to do. So she recommended, why don't we do Uber Eats? I was like, I don't know if I want to do Uber Eats. I can't. I don't know if I want to do Uber Eats. But she said, you have the flexibility. If you want to do it, you can go on the road. If one day you're busy with other stuff, you don't have to do it. I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. And 3 deliveries later, first day doing it, I fell in love with it. I was having so much fun. I enjoyed the idea of what I put out there on the road. Granted, there's a lot of variables, but I could make more money if I spent more time on the road. And that wasn't something I was used to as a salaried employee, which isn't a bad thing. It's a great thing to have that comfort.
Sure.
But at the same time, I was like, this is exciting. I do a good job, I can make more money. I do a bad job, I make less. And there's some incentive to be on the road. And then I did it for a couple months, and I was sharing stories with people. Oh, this happened on the road. I had this happen on the road. This guy came out in his underwear, and I was wearing the same underwear as him. I was like, oh my God, we have the same underwear on. And then I realized I always wanted to do a podcast, but I just didn't know what my platform was. And I said, you know what? I'm going to share my stories from the road. And that's kind of the evolution of the podcast. And then it's evolved from there, where my wife and I do food reviews on Uber Eats orders delivered to us, and then try to interview some people about food delivery. And it actually, initially, the podcast was called Basketball Drives because I wanted to talk about basketball. And then I realized I didn't really even care to talk about basketball. That was boring. Anybody can have an opinion on who's going to win in the NBA playoffs. Who cares? I want to talk about what I see on the road as a food delivery driver in northern New Jersey. And that's kind of the spark of it. And the year later, here we are.
Yeah, I went back, listened to some of the earlier ones, and I kind of got that sense that it was like, okay, yeah, basketball. Oh, now on to food delivery. And it just, you could almost just kind of see that drawing you more into what's going on with that. Now, you focus a lot on Uber Eats. Have you done any deliveries with any of the other platforms or anything?
Good question. I have not. And I originally wanted to sign up for another platform. I believe it was DoorDash. I can't remember now off the top of my head, but I could not get into it. It was almost locked out, and there just was too many drivers, I guess, in the area. So then I went to Uber Eats, and I have not tried another one. I do want to try it, though, for the podcast, because I think it would be interesting to talk about using another platform, because I'm just so now used to everything that Uber Eats has done, but I have never used another platform. I'm like a little nervous to even try it. I'm sure I'd be fine once I got going, but I'm still a little anxious. Like, do I click left? Do I click right? How's this going to work? Am I going to figure this out? Because I do remember the first order I did for Uber Eats, I had no idea what I was doing, and it was a little intimidating. I'm sure I'd be fine now, but no, to answer your question, I have only done Uber Eats and nothing else at this point.
You mentioned that as far as where you said you might try it or something, just maybe, if nothing else, for the podcast. You ever find yourself taking deliveries, maybe just because you probably wouldn't normally take it, but you think there might be something in this or something that you want to talk about?
That is a great question, and the answer is absolutely yes. There was an order that I talked about in a previous episode where I got notes from the gentleman who said, can you please deliver this? It was a girl he was trying to get back. And he was like, can you deliver this to where she worked? It's a surprise. I got to her office or where she works. It wasn't an office, but where she worked. And they're like, yeah, she's not here today. So I called him back. I said, she's not here. And he's like, okay, just drop it off. I was like, are you okay if you drove over to her apartment complex, which is a couple miles away? I was like, sure. It's good for the story. It's good for the podcast. Let's do it. And then away we went, and I just drove another 4 miles. He gave a great tip. I dropped off the food, got his number, and then he gave me an update on how their relationship's going. So I was like, maybe normally if I was just trying to go out there and go to the next order, I would not have been so into this. But I was like, you know what? This is going to make for a good podcast story. Let's do it.
I did this last weekend that Grubhub threw this thing out that said, hey, if you accept 100% of your orders, or it's 95%, which is essentially for one night is 100%, right. We'll give you $4 extra per delivery. And I know what a disaster it is usually to take every order with Grubhub, but it was just one of those, yeah, but I could write about this. And so, okay, I'm game. And it's,
I totally get that. I mean, and the more you've done now, you kind of have an idea like, okay, is this going to create content? Is this going to be interesting? Or is this something I've seen a million times, not worth it? But your spidey sense goes up. You're like, all right, there might be something here. So I completely understand that perspective, and I go with it. So I get it.
And sometimes it's just about the experience anyway. I had one time I took one that, and one of the big differences with Grubhub and DoorDash are they give you the total amount ahead of time. Now, gosh, up until a few months ago, you didn't even have any idea about the amount with Uber Eats. And they finally started throwing that in. But, with those two, they just tell you the total amount. So you know what you're getting paid. And I picked up one that it was $3. And it was like, well, no. And I don't even know why I took it. Ended up dropping off to, it was a room in a therapy hospital or something like that. And this guy, he was celebrating because it was his first time. He'd had like brain damage. His mom told me about it. She probably had no idea about how this works or about tipping or anything like that. But she was just so excited because she was able to order food for him for the first time after he had got into a bike accident or something like that. And it's that kind of stuff that it's like, okay, I think I'm okay not getting a tip on that one, just being able to experience it,
Yeah, I totally understand that. And to play off that, just the unique and interesting people that you get to meet and you get to get involved with, and the stories you hear from people and the human side of things. And like you just mentioned, is something I never really thought of when I got into doing Uber Eats and delivery, but has been a pleasant surprise in some of the like the fun friendships that have made, even with people more so like at restaurants, and you see the same owners, and that you're able to go in there and they say hey, and they trust you and you trust them, and you build a relationship off that, was something I never really thought of, but now doing it, it's like I don't know how I could be without that.
Yeah. How do you feel with that when you go into the restaurant, like you said, with the owners, and you build a good relationship with them, but then you watch some of the ways that other drivers act? I mean, there's some that's like, man, there's a huge chip on their shoulder or something like that. And
that is a great question. That's a great question. And it's interesting because you'll go into places and you'll see guys be jerks, and you'll see them treating other people poorly. And like sometimes I'll see guys running in and they're on their cell phone, and they just, they'll just shove the phone in front of someone's face. Like, here's the order. And there's no human relationship and back and forth, especially like this time of what we're going through right now.
Yeah.
You need to make sure that people are, you got to have a little more courtesy and an understanding. Like, it's going to be more difficult for the restaurant owner. It's going to be a little more difficult for the driver, but we're all in this together. We need to do things properly. But you're right. You'll see people treating other people like jerks, showing off their phone. Hey, here it is, demanding the food. And then I hate when there's like, that's such a funny question, because I'll hate when somebody goes in first and is like that, and then I follow it. So now I'm like, oh, now this guy's the restaurant owner or person there is going to be mad at me when I'm just the second person coming in. I'm sorry, I'm just here for the pickup. Don't get mad at me because he was a jerk. So I feel that.
Yeah. But, and the funny thing is, though, that it's like, especially those regulars, and when you're cool with everybody that's in there and you treat them well, I don't know how many times I'm like the last one in and I'm the first one out or something like that, because they like take care of you,
No, that's very true. And they see you and they know you, and you build a relationship, and they want to make sure that they can get that order there first. So, I mean, just like anything else, building relationships, helping your business and helping you smooth along for, the best deliveries you can do, and making sure they go as smooth as possible and as quick as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things, like you mentioned about that, just that human interaction. And I think that's one of the reasons that this is such a good fit for me. It is like you get just enough interaction without too much, You get to chat a little bit with some of the folks at the restaurants, and usually it's just kind of a quick exchange. Usually if they got a dog, I'll say something about, hey, I get it. That's life with my dogs, or something like that. But, it's just a few words, but it's like, it's still enough to feel like, okay, you're still kind of like human out there, but then you don't got them in the car the whole time like you do with rideshare. That might be a little too much for me. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I've never done the Uber side of things, just Uber Eats on my end too.
Yeah, I did taxi like 30 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Gosh, I'm betraying my age right there. What would you say if you were to pick one thing that you just really enjoy the most about the delivery? What would you say it is?
My answer would be, I like that when I do it, my sole focus is on the deliveries and doing the job that in a good way, I sort of forget about all the crap that's going on in my life. And I get so focused and zeroed in on making sure that I can pick up this burrito and take it to said customer, and that I figure out the route. And it just kind of puts me at ease and relaxes me. Whenever I felt that I was like in an anxious state, what doing these deliveries, maybe I'm putting on some sports radio I like, listening to another podcast that I enjoy, and I'm just picking up orders, and it seems to calm me down. And then when I'm done, I look and I go, oh, okay, there's $172 in my account. That's pretty cool. But more than anything, I was surprised with how much it relaxed me. Now, granted, of course, there's going to be times where I'm double parking in places, I'm running out, and there's cars honking behind me. The person's at the door not answering the car, and it's a one-way street. And I'm trying to figure out how to get them the food and not piss off the person behind me. So I'm not saying like it's like this is so. I'm at a spa getting a massage with
Right.
champagne, but it puts me in a good mental place. And I think more than anything, I like that distraction that it gave me and it gives me. And every time I'm usually finished with the day, I have a sense of accomplishment, and I really enjoy that. So more than anything, just how it kind of puts my mindset in a good spot.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. I did, 20 some years in telecom, and then a couple of years I was a business manager for this little nonprofit in the area. But it was like you get out and do delivery, and all of a sudden I'm like done at the end of the day, and it's like I can just go home. I don't have to worry about that deadline coming up tomorrow. I don't have to worry about that meeting. I don't have to worry about some boss coming after you on stuff like that. It's just like, this is sweet.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And I think the dichotomy of what I do with CBS Sports Radio, where it's a nonstop 24/7 kind of job, because in sports, the news cycle doesn't stop. Like you got to be on top of sports. You got to have guests ready. Even when your show's over, you're worried about the next day, and you got to get things rolling. And not that that's a bad thing, but there is something to it when you're done, and it's over. There's nothing to think about for the next time. You're just you're thinking about how I can improve as a driver. Maybe I could have done this differently, but for the most part, it's all right. That's over, and I don't have to bring the stress back from the road to the house. And that's a great point, and I completely agree with what you said.
Yeah. What do you hate the most about it? Anything just really drives you crazy?
I mean, I do get frustrated. I mean, two part when the app is like when the GPS doesn't work and it's zigzagging you all over the place, and then you're like, it's a little delayed. So you go one way and then it says, now you're going the wrong way. That's frustrating. I would say, of course, I don't like that. You said this earlier in the podcast, in this conversation, and I'm still trying to get better at it. But when people don't tip and you feel like you did everything you could, it is mind numbing. Like I delivered in a snowstorm. I went through the snow. I trekked through it. You couldn't throw $1. Like it's hard for me to understand that mindset. I am trying to do a better job in just understanding that there will be times where it's not you, it's the person, and it is what it is. And then also something that's kind of frustrating is I have a pretty good rating. It's like 98%, but there's a couple thumbs down, and maybe you could help. And there's an answer to this. I'd love to know what happened that I got a negative response. Like, was the food missing and there was some in the container and there was really something I could not have done? Did I say something? I mean, did I do something wrong without knowing it? I'd love more feedback on why there's some thumbs down, because I don't ever think, minus a long wait, I don't think I've done any, I'm not out there. I don't think I'm insulting people or doing anything like that. No. So I'd love to know why the thumbs down. I'd be very curious.
Yeah, that's a mystery, man. That is such a mystery, because I've had that, and I went from within a couple of days, I'd gotten up to 100%. I thought, this is awesome. And all of a sudden I take a look and I'm at 96. Like, how the hell did that happen? And I have no idea. And I think the problem with the ratings is it's worse actually on DoorDash. is there are so many things you get rated on that are totally out of your control, you know? If the restaurant screwed up the order, I'm not one of those people that's going to go rifle through the order to check everything. Um, some of that is time, but some of that is I don't want somebody else digging through my food, so I'm not going to do that. And I just,
Totally.
I'll check. I'll check with the restaurant folks. I say, okay, we got this and this. Oh, yep, it's all there. Okay, I take them at their word. And if that's not there, or they cook something wrong, and sometimes they'll rate the delivery based on that. Or maybe you got the order, things are just super busy with Uber Eats. So by the time you got the order, it's already late, and you're busting your butt doing everything you can, but you can't control that part that it's already late before you get there, So it's some of that stuff that you just, it's that, worry about the things you can control. And that's a hard one for me, because there's times I'm the same way. I'm like, I don't know what I could have done differently. And I just have to remind myself it's them, it's them, not me.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point. You'll go to a restaurant, and there'll be times where the bag's sitting there, and you go to get it. You're relieved because you're like, okay, good. I don't have to wait. The food's here. I can get up and go. But maybe that bag of food has been sitting there for 35 minutes, and you're, unfortunately, the person picking it up. But now you're in a bad spot because they're hungry, they're angry, and they're going, "Where's this food been?" And you're just, here you go, or
I know
you've been there for 2 minutes. It's one of those mysteries of how long has that bag been there. I wish I could know, but it is what it is in that department.
It's kind of like sometimes you pick up, especially with a pizza place or something like that, you pick it up and you grab it, and right away, man, this is cold. This is not going to go well.
Right. Exactly.
I was talking with my family the other day, and I think my brother asked me, he goes, "Hey, what's the craziest thing that's happened to you?" And I just drew a total blank. I don't know if it's my age catching up with me. Maybe it's just kind of being more in the moment or something like that. And there's times that I think maybe, I ought to start writing some stuff down or something like that so I can go back and tell the story. Kind of like way back when I drove a cab, and there are all sorts of crazy things that happened, and I'm not sure I could tell you any of them right now. That's one thing that's kind of fun listening to you is you do a great job just telling some of the stories out there. And I listen to those and I was like, man, I wish I had thought to do that. What would you say? Is there one story that really sticks out in your mind right now? You told the one already about the guy chasing that down. That was fun to listen to, by the way. You got anything that just really kind of sticks out in your mind is just one of the craziest things you ever saw?
Yeah, there was one, and it's kind of like a two-part story. So I live in northern New Jersey, just outside New York City. Probably, I do a lot of orders anywhere from 3 to 15 miles west of New York City. And this was late in the summer, and I got a pickup that was to go to one of these gourmet bakeries, and I got 6 giant cookies, like just humongous cookies. And I pick up the order, and the way Uber Eats worked then is it's changed a little bit now. It's like the software's gotten a little more sophisticated and helpful for the driver. But at first, when you picked up an order, you didn't know where you were going. You had no information. It was basically like, swipe, pick it up, and let's find out where we're going. Now you have a little more information. So I got the order, picked up the cookies. It was a double order, which meant I was going to person A first, then person B. Got the order, dropped off the cookies that person A wanted, and then moseyed on to person B to get them their cookies. And it turns out I was dropping off for a guy, giving him 6 giant cookies at a hotel room. And I was like, all right, this is kind of strange. A guy in his hotel room just wants 6 massive cookies. It's like kind of odd, but I get it. You have a cookie craving. It is what it is. So I drive on over, and I'm getting to the hotel, and all of a sudden I see New York Giants in the hotel, and it clicked in my head. This is the New York Giants camp for summer football. So it's right by where the Giants play, and this must be the team hotel. So I then get the order, and I'm walking up, and there's a 6'7", 334-pound man coming to me to get his cookies. I'm like, oh my God, I'm dropping off for a New York Giant. This is kind of cool. So I drop him off the cookies, and he's going back towards the elevator. He came into the lobby, and this is pre-pandemic, so it's a different world, of course.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to walk back outside, and I'm starting to Google because I have his first name. So I want to figure out who it is. And he was decked out in all this Giants apparel. So just as I figure out who it is, it's John Jenkins of the New York Giants. I hear him in the background yelling at me, sir, come back. And he runs back towards me. And he goes, you got my cookie order wrong. These aren't the cookies I ordered. And I'm explaining to him on the app, it doesn't say the specific type. It just says the number. There was 6 cookies there. He wanted M&M cookies. I gave him chocolate chip cookies. So he was massively disappointed. So long story short, I then, through my connections with CBS Sports Radio, I emailed the New York Giants PR staff. They get me access to come to practice. So I go to practice a few days later, and I deliver him the right cookies, and we sit down and have an interview after Giants practice. And I then find out that they were for his kids, and he was so upset because he knew his kids were going to be in such a bad mood that they got the wrong cookies that day. So that became full circle. I got to interview him about the experience, and it was kind of cool then to just be like, he said to me after, this is the strangest interview request I've ever had in my career. And I was like, this was really cool. And then it's funny because then you start following these guys. Like, I was rooting for him to do well because I was like, I know him. I want him to have a successful season, which I thought was kind of fun.
Yeah. You know, like you said, you mentioned something in there about being, pre-pandemic. And this whole coronavirus thing has just changed everything. It's the kind of thing that, I've been so thankful that I've been able to just keep delivering through all this. There's a lot of people that just totally out of work, out of money, all that stuff. So, you kind of feel fortunate that you're in the middle of something that doesn't get shut off. But I don't know, what's been your experience, I guess, with the pandemic, and how does that seem different? And you see things better? You see things, obviously a lot worse, but, talk a little bit about that as far as what that's been for you as delivery person.
Yeah, it's been a weird, wild roller coaster. And to be completely honest, I ended up getting the virus way back when, months ago. So I stayed off the road for a while because, one, I had it and I didn't want to share it with anybody. So it took me months before I got back on the road because I wanted to be safe and smart. And then I get back on the road, and I've noticed that the orders are coming in all the time. So typically, like for me, a Sunday would always be the best day because people are ordering. It's pre-pandemic, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There's no rules with Sunday. People are just getting food all the time.
Yep.
And Sundays became every day. People are getting orders left and right. New restaurants have been added. And the other thing was the tips were through the roof. People feeling, going out there and giving bigger tips, knowing that you're putting yourself on the line out there, traveling from restaurants to different restaurants to other people's homes. And it's just been insane, the amount of orders and the money. I didn't do a lot of it early on, but I heard through a lot of different people that I've become become friends with different drivers through this podcast, and kind of like a little community, is the amount of, like, some guys were making in a day $300+ in one day. And like figuring out the math on what that would be. It was just insane amount of money that you could make in a week. People think, oh, you're a delivery driver, how much money could you make? And it's like, some people are making like $2,000 a week, not every 2 weeks, every week, making serious money because tips were up and it was nonstop, or like wake up in the morning and go to the night. That Uber Eats, I now saw, put a cap on how many hours in this area you could do a week, because I think people were just going like, you know what? I'm going to work hard. I'm going to hustle. I'm going to take it to a new level. They had to say you can't do more than 60 hours in a week because, normally if you were to do like a Monday morning, afternoon, night, there's some deliveries in the evening, but it's not the same. Now, or early on in the pandemic in the New Jersey area specifically, Monday at 10 a.m., people needed food. So it was just like, it was nonstop orders, and people were one of the businesses, I guess, benefiting from it were actually delivery drivers.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, it's been crazy. And the beauty of it was no traffic, no parking problems, except for at the customer place because everybody's home. And so
Yep.
you get some of those neighborhoods where, the streets are already packed and now nobody's going into work. So you get there to deliver and there's nowhere to park at the customer end. But yeah, you pull up and it's like all these restaurants you used to never be able to find parking for, and you're pulling right up to the front door. And yeah, I was sitting there, I usually get about 2 to 2.5 hour deliveries in an hour's time. And I was getting there were times where I was getting between 4 and 5 in an hour because there's no traffic. It was beautiful, but it was man.
No, that's so true, and I didn't bring that up before. It's amazing when you would go out on the road, and normally you're like, this place. I don't know if I want to go to this place. The parking is the worst.
Yeah.
I have to go walk through this, and now you're just rolling on up. Nobody on the road, right to the restaurant because they didn't have people sitting in their restaurant. They're more on top of the order, so you're not waiting. You're rolling in. You're getting the bag. You're moving along, and you're right. I mean, it was crazy how efficient it would be, and then not having to worry about traffic. It was a delivery driver's dream.
Yeah, no kidding. Now you said that you caught it. Did it knock you out pretty good, or was it kind of so, or what was that like?
Yeah, no, I had it, and I had a really high fever, and something. The first night I had it, I didn't. Well, first of all, I didn't know, and I sometimes get gout on my feet, and it's just like the worst pain ever. I don't wish gout on my worst enemy. It's awful. And whenever I get gout, I get really bad sweats at night because I'm trying to like get it out of me. So the first night I fell asleep and I woke up and I'm like, oh no, I have gout again. I'm sweating. Oh no, this can't be happening. Ugh. And then I was like, the next day happened and I was like, this is still going on. Uh-oh. So went to went to the Medi clinic. They did not have the COVID test, but I did get my fever and it was like 102. And I was like, oh boy. And I took the flu test, which came back negative. And at this point I'm like, this has to be it. But my biggest anxiety was I have my pregnant wife with me. So I was like, oh no. And then of course I gave it to her and she had more of the breathing issues than I did. That really wasn't a thing for me so much. I had like a funky headache and a high fever temperature. And what's interesting too was this is like before more information came out on this. So I had like, there'd be like a little taste, my taste buds weren't as good, but I didn't know this was like a thing with COVID where you get it and you can't taste as well. And then like weeks later or months later, yeah, if you get COVID, you can't taste your food. Cause I remember finally feeling a little better and just like plowing chicken fried rice and wonton soup, like plowing it. And I was like, this is good, but it doesn't really taste great. That was a big takeaway. But I was, luckily everybody, my wife, me, we're all healthy. We're all feeling great now. Everything's good. But, there was the fear of the unknown. And then her with the breathing stuff was definitely anxiety driven, but all is good now. All is good.
No kidding. I had times, and I know one of those early things that I saw was, one of your best indicators was, if you couldn't hold your breath for very long. And there's times I'm driving and it's like, oh man, something feels off. Am I getting this? At first, I got to do is I sit there and trying to hold my breath for 10, 15, 20 seconds. And it's like,
I get it.
Shoot, have I got it? And I don't think I ever came down with it that I know of. But I'm hearing of a lot of people that have caught it that had no idea or something like that at least they're getting the antibodies. But it is good to know you got through it okay and everything. You kind of feel like Superman now when you go out and stuff like that. It's kind of like, okay, I got this. I can't get it now.
I know, there is some of that sense, but then at the same time, it's like we don't have a lot of information on this. Who really knows? So I'm, still obviously going out and being, doing everything the right way. But it is in the back of my mind knowing like, hey, I had it. So I do feel a little bit better about that. But then I'm like, oh, God, I don't want to be that guy that they go to and it's like, you had it twice. And I don't, it's like, who really knows? So definitely when I'm out on the road too, it's, gloves, mask, and doing hand sanitizer and, doing everything the right way. Cause I always feel weird. Like, I don't want to tell people like, hey, I had this 3 months ago and I'm delivering your food. It's like a weird thought that always creeps in my head, even though I might be like the best person to bring that to them because I've had it and I could actually be the safest driver out there. But of course I can't tell that in the notes. Like, hey, I'm coming with your food. Just want you to know I had this 3 months ago. Like, you can't put that in there.
No,
you put that in the notes.
Not a good way to encourage more tips either, probably.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Well, Mike, I appreciate just all your time here and everything like that. And it's kind of like, okay, it could be a whole lot more things I could ask, different stories, stuff like that. And don't want to go too long here on the episode, I guess. But kind of parting words or anything. Any last piece of advice you would offer to anybody that is out there doing delivery right now? What's one thing you would tell somebody to do if they're thinking about doing this?
I would say the most important thing is just to smile. Like, I know it sounds kind of silly, but when you see a person, and now there's a lot of like contactless delivery, but when you see a customer, when you see someone at that business, just smile and be nice. And I think that goes a long way with anything. Like, I know when someone delivers food to me and they're just like in a good mood, even if you have to fake it for that 1 minute, I think it goes a long way if you're doing deliveries. And enjoy the moment and just kind of like just understand that you are doing a good for people and you're helping people and you're getting food, especially this time of that we're living in, how important it is for delivery drivers. So just know that you're helping somebody out and just have fun with it and just know that like who knows what stories are coming. Have a game with it. Try to beat your income from the day before. And just have a blast. And I've enjoyed being on this episode. It's fun talking with other drivers because there's definitely like a sense and understanding of something that, you and I have gone through in deliveries and just the little situations that happen that maybe not other people could understand. So it's been really fun hopping on with you and talking about these stories. And I love reliving and sharing some of the moments I've had on the road. So it's fun.
It's been a lot of fun. I had a quick question for you because you talked about smile. You ever felt like your smile was wasted because you got this stupid mask on?
That's a good point. That's a really good point. And I actually, it's funny. I did not a delivery, but last night my wife and I for the month of July, we're trying seafood from different Uber Eats chain restaurants. So yesterday we got the popcorn shrimp from Popeyes in Montclair, New Jersey. And I do a lot of Popeyes orders, and they're always good in places except this one location, never on time. So I could tell the woman next to me was getting really frustrated that her order wasn't coming up, but she's in a mask. So like you can kind of read her eyes and you can tell that she's given a frown and that she wants to like communicate with you. Ugh, this is awful. And like you're commiserating with the annoyance of the experience of waiting for your food. But then the mask's there. So I'm like, is she upset? Maybe I'm upset. I just want to double check. So you're so right. I guess you got to give a really big smile and you can't take the mask off to show it. So post pandemic, maybe a smile with a little eye nod to help it out.
Well, and I've noticed that though sometimes too. You smile at somebody and you just kind of see the corner of their eyes turn up or something like that. So you think that they smiled back, so maybe they recognized it. Dude, you were so brave. Guys, one thing that is fun listening about Mike's podcast is he and his wife will try out different foods. And there this last month, he did Taco Bell, and I thought, you got to be nuts.
It's funny. It was the first time I ever had well, I had it a little bit before, but never like I had the chicken quesadillas a few times or steak quesadillas, but I didn't really understand the menu. First time I had Taco Bell, and we did 5 weeks of it. It was disgusting. It was the worst thing I ever had. By the 5th week, I was like, this isn't so bad. And then you start craving it. It's bizarre. It's awful. It's disgusting. But by the end of this experience, my wife and I looked at each other yesterday and goes, I kind of want Taco Bell. I am like, I know. It's horrible, but why do I want this? I don't know what they're doing, but they're geniuses over there at Taco Bell. They really are.
There was a poll not that long ago that Taco Bell was voted the best Mexican restaurant in the United States. And I think that said everything you need to know about this country.
Oh, my God. No.
Mike, Thanks so much for coming on. It has been a blast. And folks, you got to go check out Mike Delivers. Well, Courier Nation, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed doing the recording. Thank you to Mike Bisceglia from Mike Delivers podcast for joining us today. And a little bit of a cameo appearance, if you heard him there in the beginning, with Molly and Kuma, who are my two black labs. Every once in a while, they kind of like them, make themselves known here. But folks, one thing that comes to mind here real quick when listening to Mike, and you get a lot of ups and downs with the delivery, and there are some things that can be frustrating, a lot of things that you can enjoy and really enjoy the heck out of. And I think in the end, it says something about everything that we do in that you've got a choice, which ones are you going to choose to focus on? I think you can really enjoy the heck out of doing this delivery work and all of the interactions. And I think you can really dread it. And sometimes it's really up to us. And in fact, as I wrap up here today, I think the bottom line comes down to, I think there's a lot of things that are really up to us. Mike talked about, how can I do better? Thinking about, challenging himself at one point about how can I, maybe make a little bit more or something like that. And that really is, I think, kind of the mindset that is, I think it's just so valuable just to say, what can I do? And I think we've got a lot more control over this than a lot of times we give ourselves credit for. So that's what I want to encourage you today as we wrap up this episode. We went a little bit longer, but it was fun just because we got to talk quite a bit about all sorts of things. But as I wrap it up, that's the one thing I encourage you is to make that choice and take control, because you do have control over so many things, and especially doing this. So take control and be the boss.